Hello everyone, my name is Akil. Welcome back to my YouTube channel Amazing Paramedical. Students, as we have started a new video series of solving paramedical previous year question papers, from which we have started annual examination November 2024 Anatomy Physiology question paper. In the last video, we have completed section A anatomy, all the question answers. In today's video, we will discuss and solve section B physiology 5 marks question answers. Let's begin. Students, the first question is neuromuscular junction or NMJ for 5 marks. In our body, neurons are completely responsible for carrying or transferring the messages from muscle to the brain and spinal cord, and from the brain and spinal cord to the muscle, due to which there is occurrence of contraction, muscle contraction, right? So the point where the neuron and muscle communicate with each other, that point is called as neuromuscular junction. Okay, because of this junction the muscle is able to contract, then there is occurrence of movement. Okay, so as you can see here in the diagram, here we have got neuron end, that is axon end here. Okay, here at down we have got muscle end. Okay, so here from here the neuron end is communicating with the help of the neurotransmitter. Here in the blue color, as you can see, these are the neurotransmitter that are being released from the synaptic vesicles. Okay, these are the synaptic vesicles. Here with the help of exocytosis they are releasing their messages in this gap, here. Okay, so from this gap these messages are received by this muscle end with the help of the receptor, specific receptors here. Then there will be occurrence of contraction. Okay, so the next part we will discuss is structure of NMJ. In that structure, the first part is presynaptic terminal. In presynaptic terminal, what we can find is there will be presence of synaptic vesicles that are filled with neurotransmitters, that is acetylcholine. Okay, here as you can see there are synaptic vesicles here in the presynaptic terminal. This is the terminal line. So as you can see, there is a synaptic vesicle here in which we can find neurotransmitters. In blue color, these all are neurotransmitters. These are the chemical messengers, right? The second point what we can find here in the presynaptic terminal is the voltage gated calcium channel. Okay, here we have got voltage gated channel, that is nothing but calcium channel. Okay, through which the calcium will start entering inside this presynaptic terminal. Okay, the second point of this structure is synaptic cleft, that is nothing but the gap between the neuron and the muscle. That gap will be somewhere around 20 to 50 nanometer. As you can see here in the diagram, this gap between these two ends is nothing but 20 to 50 nanometer. Okay, the third part of the structure is motor end plate, that is the muscle end. The muscle fibers are the specialized membrane. That specialized membrane is also known as sarcolemma. It has got some specific receptors on them. Here as you can see, these green color receptors are there, right? So they are called as nicotinic acetylcholine receptors. Okay, in short NACHRS in your junctional folds. Okay, so this is all about the structure of the NMJ. Next, the process we will discuss, how actually the NMJ works, how there will be transfer of message. Okay, in the process, the first point is action potential arrives at the presynaptic terminal, opening calcium channels. Okay, so whenever there is opening of calcium channels, the calcium will start entering inside this synaptic vesicle part. Then as you can see here in the diagram, okay, here this is the end of this, from here the action potential will arrive. As soon as there is presence of action potential, then these calcium channels will start opening up. As soon as they open up, the calcium will enter inside, and that will trigger, this calcium entry will trigger these vesicles to form exocytosis here. Whenever there is exocytosis, then there will be release of these neurotransmitters outside. Okay, as soon as these neurotransmitters are released here, these neurotransmitters are absorbed or caught by these nicotinic acetylcholine receptors here. Okay, so when these nicotinic acetylcholine receptors bind to these neurotransmitters, at that time then there will be opening of another gated channel here, that is sodium. Okay, the sodium will start entering inside this muscle end here. Okay, as soon as there is an entry of sodium here, the potassium will start exiting out. Okay, the potassium will exit. So this sodium, as soon as it reaches a threshold, okay, then the calcium that is present in the T tubules, that will be released, and that will go and bind with the actin and myosin part, that is sarcomere part, and then there will be occurrence of movement. Okay, see here, the calcium influx will trigger the release of ACH into the synaptic cleft via exocytosis. The diffused acetylcholine binds to nicotinic acetylcholine receptors on the motor end plate. This binding will cause the sodium ions influx, that is movement, inward movement of the sodium ions, and exit of potassium ions. The net influx of sodium will cause the end plate potential. If the end plate potential reaches threshold, then the muscle action potential will occur. Okay, and that will lead to the T tubules. Okay, in the T tubules we have got calcium, so that calcium will be released from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Okay, and it will help for the muscle contraction cycle. Okay, so this is all about the NMJ, guys, neuromuscular junction we have got here. Okay, so this is the 5 marker. The next answer that we'll be discussing is, describe the composition and functions of cerebrospinal fluid and functions of CSF or functions of cerebrospinal fluid. So as you can see here, this is one of the most expected and repeated question from your previous exams. You can also expect this question in your annual exams, guys. Okay, so the first that we will discuss here is the composition of CSF. Okay, what all it contains, what all it is made up of. Okay, so CSF is primarily made up of 99% it is made up of water, guys. Okay, so and it is produced by the choroid plexus that is present inside our brain ventricles. Okay, yes. What all it contains? It contains electrolytes in it. Apart from water, there is presence of electrolytes. Okay, the electrolytes, that is those, which type of electrolytes will be there? Sodium will be there, chloride will be there, magnesium. Some lower concentration of potassium and calcium is also present there. Okay. The second point it contains is some proteins and glucose. Okay, CSF has significantly lower levels of proteins and glucose than the blood plasma. Okay, so in a very low amount, there will be presence of protein and glucose in the CSF fluid. Okay, in most of the time we will not find it actually. Okay, why? Because of the large size of the proteins and glucose molecules here, so those will not be filtered here. Okay, because the CSF is formed by the ultrafiltration of the blood plasma. Okay, so because of the ultrafiltration, the proteins will not get filtered here, so they will not have entry into the CSF fluid. Okay, because of its negative charge and large size. Okay, so the third point what we can find here is the cells. In healthy individuals, CSF is virtually cell-free. There will be no presence of cell. Okay, but in some cases we can find very small number of white blood cells. Okay, yes. Now we will discuss the functions of CSF. What all it does actually. Okay, how it is important for our body. Okay, the first function of CSF is protection. Okay, it provides protection. How it provides protection? CSF acts as a shock absorber. It acts as a shock absorber and it will provide buoyancy. Okay, that will reduce the brain's effective weight and it will protect from the physical trauma. Okay, so whenever there is any physical hit or any physical trauma or injury to our brain, okay, so or to a head region, that all those all shock movements or that all hit is absorbed by the CSF fluid. Okay, it will not let those vibrations to travel to our brain. Okay, so it acts as a shock absorber. Okay, yes. Next thing, it provides buoyancy. Buoyancy is nothing but it will provide balance to it. Okay, so because of the CSF fluid, our brain and spinal cord are floating inside the CSF fluid, so which are balanced there. Okay, the second function what it does is it will provide the homeostasis. the internal environment, the balance of the internal environment, it will keep it stable, it will keep it balanced. Okay, so that is the second function of our CSF fluid. Okay, the third function is waste removal. Okay, it clears the metabolic waste products and toxins from the brain, functioning like a lymphatic system for the CNS. Okay, so CSF, what it does, what all waste has been generated there or produced, that can be metabolic waste or some toxins and all, those all things will be again carried away by our CSF itself. The last function of the CSF is transport. It carries all the essential nutrients and hormones to the brain and spinal cord. Okay, so what all hormones or what all nutrients are coming through this plasma or blood, okay, those all things will be again carried through this CSF fluid, okay, to our brain and spinal cord. Okay, yes, so this is all about the second answer here, that is composition and functions of CSF fluid, okay, or cerebrospinal fluid. The last answer in today's video is describe the lung volumes and capacities, or just lung volumes and capacities. Okay, students, it is one of the again most repeated and expected question for your upcoming exams here. Okay, so the answer for this one is like, it is very much simple. The lung volumes and capacities are measurements of the amount of air in the lungs at the different phases of respiratory cycle. Okay, so during different phases of respiratory cycle, at that time what amount of air is present inside our lung, okay, so that will be measured here. Okay, so that will be measured here now. Okay, we can see it with the help of the diagram, guys. Okay, we have got some diagrams here. Yes, yeah, we have got the lung volume and capacities diagram, guys. Okay, yes, they are crucial for assessing the respiratory function and diagnosing the lung diseases. The lung volumes, the primary, actually non-overlapping. There are four types. The first one is the tidal volume. Tidal volume, in short, TV. The volume of air inhaled or exhaled during a single normal quiet breath. Okay, and that should be normally, it should be 500 ml. Okay, the tidal volume is something whenever we are breathing in or breathing out in a very normal way, not applying any extra pressure. Okay, we are just breathing normally out or in. At that time, what amount of air is present inside our lung? Okay, normally it will be somewhere around 500 ml. That normal rate will be known as tidal volume. Okay, the second type here, the inspiratory reserve volume, that is IRV. Okay, the maximum extra volume of air that can be forcibly inhaled after a normal tidal respiration. Okay, see here, guys, suppose I have taken some normal respiration, I have taken normally some amount of air inside. After that, if I again breathe in forcibly if I breathe in, okay, by applying some pressure, then that will be known as inspiratory reserve volume. Okay, so normal adult value, it should be somewhere around 1900 to 3300 ml, guys. Okay, the third type is expiratory reserve volume. Expiratory reserve volume, the maximum extra volume of air that can be forcibly exhaled after a normal tidal expiration. Okay, see here, guys, if I'm exhaling or if I'm breathing out normally, okay, that is a normal thing, right? If I am applying pressure and if I'm breathing out with lot of pressure, okay, forcibly if I'm breathing out, then that will be known as expiratory reserve volume. Okay, after the expiratory reserve volume, what amount of air is present, exactly what amount of air is present inside our lung, that air will be ERV, that is expiratory reserve volume here. So that will be somewhere around 700 to 1200 ml. Okay, the last one is the residual volume. That residual volume is nothing but the volume of air that remains in the lungs even after a maximal forceful exhalation. Okay, and this air cannot be voluntarily exhaled and prevents the lungs from the collapsing. Okay, so this residual volume is something after the expiratory exhalation, after forcibly I'm exhaling, after that what all amount of air is left inside our lungs, that will be known as residual, that is remaining thing. Okay, what that air will be functioning there, exactly what it will be doing, it will be preventing our lungs from collapsing as the normal adult value is 1200 ml. Okay, yes. Next thing, the lung capacities. Now we have discussed the lung volumes, now we will discuss the lung capacities, guys. Okay, in lung capacities we have got combinations of volumes. These are combinations of two or more lung volumes. Okay, so the first capacity is the inspiratory capacity. Inspiratory capacity, how we have to calculate that one? Inspiratory capacity, IC is equal to TV minus IRV. Okay, that is nothing but tidal volume plus inspiratory reserve volume. Normal adult value, it should be somewhere around 2400 to 3800 ml. Okay, we have to add both the things, TV and IRV. The second capacity is functional residual capacity. Okay, in which FRC, functional residual capacity, is equal to ERV, that is expiratory reserve volume plus reserve volume. Okay, after that what amount should be there? Normally it should be somewhere around 1800 to 2400 ml. Okay, the next one is vital capacity, guys. Vital capacity is calculated by VC is equal to TV, tidal volume plus inspiratory reserve volume plus expiratory reserve volume. Okay, so that will give, or normally it should be somewhere around 3100 ml to 4800 ml. Okay, the last capacity, total lung capacity. In total lung capacity we are going to add all the things, guys. Okay, we are going to add TV plus IRV plus ERV plus RV. Okay, that will give somewhere around 4200 to 6000 ml of air should be there. Okay, so this is all about the lung volume and capacities, guys. Okay, so today in today's video we have discussed three very most important question answers, guys. These are the most expected question for your upcoming exams. Okay, so make sure that you watch this video till end. Okay, and be perfect with all these answers, guys. Okay, be perfect with all these answers, and share these videos with your other paramedical classmates who have not subscribed to my channel, and ask them to subscribe as well. Okay, if there are some new viewers, please subscribe to my channel, and keep sharing, keep learning. If there are any doubts, if there are any questions, please put them in the comment section. Okay, in my description section I'll be putting part 1 and part 2 video links. Okay, just go through them also. So this will be the part 3 of this video. In my next part 4 video I will be completing the remaining questions, the remaining 2 5 marks question, and the remaining 3 marks question as well, guys. Okay, yes, thank you.